When Herb Kohler conceived of the course that would become Whistling Straits, he wanted two things. The first was a rollicking Irish-inspired links that would rival the world's best seaside courses. The other was a venue worthy of major championships. But the dead-flat property he bought sitting 50 feet above Lake Michigan was just farmland and remnants of an abandoned Army airfield incapable of giving him either. So in 1994, he put Pete Dye to work. Local legend holds that Kohler gave Dye an unlimited budget, and Dye exceeded it. That's not true, but Dye's crews flipped every inch of earth, hauling in over 10,000 truckloads of sand and cutting deep into the bluff to shape ridges, fescue-covered dunes, scoop-outs, and stacked terraces that offer infinity views of the water on nearly every hole. Once transformed, Dye had given Kohler all he desired. The Straits course at Whistling Straits consistently ranks in the top 25 in the U.S. by Golf Digest and has hosted the 2004, 2010, and 2015 PGA Championships, as well as the 2021 Ryder Cup. Spanning 2 miles tip to tip, the Straits is a maximalist creation that looks organic, an American course that looks Irish, and a visual spectacle at once terrifying and breathtaking. This is every hole at Whistling Straits. In olden times, first holes were often simply named away because they moved golfers away from the commons and into the field. The opener at Whistling Straits is called Outward Bound, and the par 4 wastes no time taking play outward towards the bluffs. It's one of only 4 holes that run generally east-west along with 9, 10, and 18, and the earth-moving necessary to manufacture the course is evident in the bunker-riddled hollow on the left that must absolutely be avoided. The second begins Whistling Straits' long march toward the sea, or in this case, Lake Michigan. The hole wends across broad terrain, cresting between an embankment of volcano-like bunkers on the right and a depression on the left, neither a good place to miss the drive. A nearly overwhelming introduction to the views, this is in essence a classic Pete Dye par 5, bending one way off the tee, then hooking the other as it approaches an angled fadeaway green that tilts right to left. The 4 par 3s at Whistling Straits might be the most dramatic quartet in golf, each playing across crumbling chasms of land with greens benched into the face of the bluff. 2 run north and 2 run south, including the third that, like the others, is angled away from the tee, so the shot is progressively more fraught the farther back the hole is cut. A false front repels meek shots to short pins, but a large swale 2/3 onto the putting surface will guide solid strikes to rear flags. The distant aiming point at the 4th is a cross-shaped bunker in the hillside above the green, and you want to stay on that line. Missing the fairway turns this strong 2-shot hole, with another green guarded on the inside by recessed bunkers, into a 3- or 4-shot one. Dye worked hard to get the outer edges of the putting surfaces on the lakeside holes to fade into the horizon, and as you swing into the green from the right, the putting surface does appear to hover over the water. Many golfers consider the par 5 fifth the weakest hole on the course. It is an odd duck, flat and in the wetlands, set well inland from the lake, with a fairway that snakes around 2 retention ponds. But the strategic complexity here is intriguing, with each shot asking players to sort out the risks of particular heroic carries and courting catastrophe the entire way. It also serves as a reprieve from the visual intensity of the rest of the course, but no matter what you think of the hole, you have to play some intelligent golf here to get through it intact. After you drive the ball to the plateau of the 6th fairway, favoring the left side, walk up past the ridge of bunkers and take a look at the green, shaped like aviator shades, and specifically the bottomless pit bunker where the nose would be. On second thought, maybe you shouldn't until after you hit the shot. Herb Kohler didn't appreciate the pros getting to double digits under par in the 2010 PGA, so he asked Dye to come back and toughen the course. This particularly ruthless bunker was one way he did it. Dye took the opposing out-and-back routings of each 9 that he used at the Ocean Course at Kiowa and applied it to Whistling Straits, but with a twist. A literal twist. Halfway through each 9, the holes cross over each other, from inland to outland, leading to stunning reveals like that of the par 3 7th playing across the cove of the lake. Misses long leave recoveries that are nearly as difficult as those coming up short, as the slender green races away from the dune behind it. An innovative trick of perspective at Whistling Straits makes golfers feel like they're on top of the water nearly everywhere because of the way the holes are stepped back into the palisade. The entire course is a stadium for viewing Lake Michigan, with the prodigious 8th, the longest par 4 on the course, running beneath the mezzanine of the 1st and 2nd holes. Big hitters need a right-to-left drive to notch tee shots into the sliver of fairway, setting up an attacking angle, while the rest of us will simply try to tack our way toward the perched green, hoping to keep the ball on the short grass. The par 4 ninth drops into a naturally low wooded section of the property around 7 Mile Creek. It's an inviting straightaway tee shot to a bold fairway, but keep drives left of center for a clear shot into the deep green. Playing to the flat area in front of the green may be the most prudent approach, because losing a shot in the deep bunkers left and right can lead to an embarrassing procession of chip shots back and forth across the putting surface. The most effective centerline bunkers are placed precisely where you want to hit the ball. Long players at the short par 4 10th will try to get their drives as close as possible to the green, but the nasty central bunker carved into the slopes of a heaving fairway is a nuisance for everyone else. A unique hole, you'll have to maneuver the ball over or around it somehow, which will leave a blind pitch to a skyline green that drops off into trouble left, right, and long. Though their appearances changed, Dye used recurring strategic concepts at most of his courses. Like Donald Ross and A.W. Tillinghast before him, he knew what worked. The par 5 11th, which can stretch to nearly 650 yards, is a classic example of setting up lines of play, moving the hole first left to right and later right to left. The fairway dips into a valley before climbing back around a sheer-faced 10-foot deep wasteland that's an even more intimidating version of its predecessor, the sprawling crater he built near the green at the 16th hole at Kiwa's Ocean Course. Flexibility is usually incorporated into par 3 holes by building tees at various lengths and orientations. At the diminutive 12th, it's done at the other end. The green is 50 yards deep and cocked at a 45-degree angle. Like the other short holes, it's cut into the hillside, but this one is different, more playful. The putting surface rolls over humps and gets narrower the farther back the hole is cut, until all that's left is a squiggly little pinky of green that dangles out above the water. The par 4 13th plays out to the northern end of the property and bears similarities to the 8th in how it falls off right toward bunkers and the lake, and then bends right toward a green that levitates above the water. It's fitting that this is where the airstrips used to be, because the approach looks like a runway streaking toward the edge of Wisconsin before vanishing. In other words, don't be long. It is impossible to talk about Whistling Straits without addressing the bunkers. There are so many, Dustin Johnson didn't even realize he was in one when he grounded his club on the 72nd hole of the 2010 PGA Championship, incurring a penalty that kept him out of the playoff won by Martin Keimer. Dye wanted to accentuate the Irish look by creating fields of sandy scrapes in the wild grasses, and once he began scattering them, it was impossible to stop. Golf Digest architecture editor emeritus Ron Whitten counted 1,012 of them in 2015, 45 more than when he did the same exercise 5 years earlier, suggesting they may be self-replicating. The 14th is modestly bunkered compared to the other holes. Switching back south, it runs through a channel of dunes and is Whistling Straits' version of the short par 4 Dye built at many of his courses, where the green is hidden to the left around an obstacle, in this case a raised bunker complex. The key is to play the ball far enough up the right side for a good look around the corner, leaving a short approach to an elevated green that's protected at the front by 2 harrowing pits. It might seem strange to suggest a 503-yard par 4 bracketed end-to-end by deep bunkers is subtle, but there's a calmness about the massive 15th. It flows atop the course's upper region, past a wide cross bunker, and into one of Whistling Straits' largest greens, requiring 2 mighty blasts. Dye wanted a big hole here, and to get it, he kept pushing the tees farther back into the dunes, forcing him to adjust a portion of the neighboring Irish course, which he was set to build next. The 16th begins the renowned par 5, par 3, par 4 closing run that Pete Dye used so often he should have copyrighted it. It's actually quite similar to the second hole, bending gradually right before swerving back to the left at the end. Aggressive players can try to carry the gaunch on the second shot, and there's plenty of room in the approach to run the ball onto yet another infinity green, a necessary tactic in the prevailing afternoon headwinds. At this point, after everything that's been seen and done, the par 3 17th will either seem like the most thrilling moment of the round, or the last thing in the world you want to see. This jawbreaker requires a long tee shot across no man's land to a deep green standing on stilts above a sunken cauldron of lost strokes to the left. But if you can get the ball past or over the eyeball bunker staring at you from short right, helping slopes will move it out toward left-hand hole locations. The 18th hole is an architectural salad, a Frankenstein creation pasted together from mismatched parts. The approach is the most frightening on the course, even from the elevated fairway. It must fly over bunkers, the creek, and unplayable long grass toward a multi-tiered clover-shaped green. If you have to play it like a par 5, there's an alternate fairway to the left, but one way or another you're going to have to hit the ball in the air. This isn't a finish, but a crescendo, a fitting cymbal crash to the end of a day at Whistling Straits. Looking around, it would seem that only wind, erosion, and geological force could shape the land formation of the Straits course, and golfers are often surprised to learn the holes aren't natural. But as it turns out, not even Mother Nature or Father Time could have conceived of what Pete Dye and Herb Kohler came up with when they came up with Whistling Straits.